Okay, real situation. You're in a meeting, or at dinner with friends, or on a date, and someone says something you completely disagree with. What do?
Panic?
Okay, yes, that's option 1. Option 2, you say nothing. You just smile and nod and die a little inside.
Also extremely common.
Option 3, you say exactly what you think, with no filter, and suddenly the whole room goes quiet and everyone's uncomfortable.
Been there.
So what's option 4? What's the move that lets you actually push back? Clearly, confidently, without starting a fight, and without being a pushover.
That's the episode.
That's exactly the episode. Welcome to Vicky's English Podcast. I'm Vicky.
And I'm Jeffrey. We do the talking, you pick up the English. Best deal going.
Before we start, everyone, please subscribe to our channel.
Yes, click the like button. And please share our podcast with your friends and family. It helps us a lot.
Absolutely. Let's get into it.
I want to say up front, this topic is not just an English problem. Disagreeing well is hard in any language.
It really is. But in English specifically, there's this whole toolkit of phrases that native speakers use almost automatically to soften a disagreement before it lands. And if you don't have that toolkit, you have 2 bad options. Say nothing or say too much too bluntly.
And both of those options cost you. Staying silent makes people think you have no opinion. Being too direct, even if you don't mean to be, can make you sound aggressive or dismissive.
And here's the thing I always tell my students. It's rarely about what you say. It's about how you frame it. 2 people can disagree with exactly the same idea, and one sounds respectful and the other sounds offensive, purely based on the words they use around it.
The wrapping, not the present.
Exactly. So today, we're giving you the wrapping, the phrases, the structure, and the confidence to actually use them.
Let's start with something I think is the single biggest mistake learners make when they disagree in English.
Go on.
They lead with the disagreement, like immediately. No, I don't think that's right. Full stop. No softening, no acknowledgement, nothing.
And in many languages, that's completely normal. Direct, efficient, respectful even. But in English, especially in British and American social contexts, it can land really badly.
It can sound aggressive, even when you're not being aggressive at all.
Right. So the first principle, and I'd say this is the most important one in the whole episode, is validate before you push back. Acknowledge the other person's point first. Show them you actually heard them.
And the phrase that does this better than almost anything else is, I see where you're coming from, but.
Oh, that one is gold. Let's flag that properly. I see where you're coming from. This is you saying, I understand your reasoning. I'm not dismissing you. And then you add the but. And now your disagreement lands completely differently.
The but doesn't feel like an attack because you've already shown respect.
Exactly. Can I tell you the story of when I got this catastrophically wrong?
Please.
So I'm teaching. This is a few years ago, and I have a student. Absolute sweetheart. Very eager. And she's giving a presentation to the class. And she makes this claim about grammar that I know isn't quite right. And I jump in. Actually, that's not correct. Clean, clear, no softening whatsoever.
Oh no.
And her face just fell. She went completely red, and the class went silent. And I realized immediately I delivered the right information in the worst possible way.
What would the right way have been?
That's a really interesting point, and you're mostly right. There's just one small thing I'd add here. Same information, completely different landing.
See, and that's the thing. Being diplomatic isn't about being dishonest. You're not hiding your disagreement. You're just packaging it in a way that the other person can actually receive.
That word, diplomatic, is worth flagging. It doesn't mean fake. It means thoughtful, socially intelligent. Choosing your words in a way that gets the result you actually want.
And the result you want is usually not to win an argument. It's to be understood.
That's beautifully put, actually.
I have my moments.
Okay, so validate first. What else?
The second thing, and this is where I slightly disagree with how it's usually taught.
Ooh, here we go.
Most textbooks give you this list of phrases and say, use these to disagree politely. And they're fine phrases, but they don't tell you the one thing that actually makes them work, which is tone.
Okay, say more.
So you can say, I see where you're coming from, but in a warm, curious tone, and it works perfectly. Or you can say the exact same words in a flat, slightly impatient tone, and it sounds just as dismissive as, no, you're wrong.
That is so true. And this is actually harder to teach in a podcast than in a classroom, but tone is everything. The phrase is the vehicle, your tone is the driver.
And I think for learners, the safest tone is curious. Like, approach the disagreement as if you're genuinely interested in understanding the other person better, not just waiting for your turn to correct them.
I love that framing. Curious, not combative. And actually, that connects to another phrase I really love for this. Can I push back on that a little?
Oh, that one's great.
Right. You're asking permission to disagree. You're signaling, I have a different view and I want to share it, but I respect you enough to check first. It's incredibly disarming.
And a little is doing a lot of work in that sentence. It's hedging the disagreement before you've even made it.
Exactly. Hedging. That's the technical word for what native speakers do constantly, and learners often skip. You soften the edges of a statement so it doesn't feel like a wall.
I'm not sure I fully agree with that, instead of I disagree.
Right. I fully is the hedge. You're leaving open the possibility that you partially agree, which is honest and much less confrontational.
That's a fair point, although the fair point is the hedge before the push.
Yes, and this is where I want to bring up something that I think is genuinely important for our listeners, especially those from cultures where direct disagreement is considered impolite.
Like many East Asian cultures, parts of the Middle East, a lot of Latin American contexts.
Right. In those cultures, the instinct is often to stay silent rather than disagree openly. And that instinct comes from a really respectful place. You don't want to embarrass the other person or create conflict.
But in English-speaking professional or social contexts, that silence can be misread.
It can be read as agreement or disinterest or even passive aggression, which is the opposite of what's intended.
So the message isn't throw out your cultural values. The message is, in English, there are ways to disagree that carry the same respect your silence was meant to show. You can be just as considerate and still be heard.
That's the whole lesson, actually. You don't have to choose between being polite and having a voice.
Can we talk about the other end of the spectrum too? Because I've also had students who overcorrect. They're so worried about being too direct that they hedge everything into meaninglessness.
Oh, the over-hedging problem, yes.
Like, I could be wrong, and maybe it's just me, and I don't know, but possibly, perhaps, you might want to consider?
And by the end of that sentence, nobody knows what you actually think.
You've hedged yourself out of existence.
So there's a balance. Hedge enough to be warm and respectful, but not so much that your actual point disappears. The disagreement still needs to land. Clearly.
I think the rule I'd give is one hedge, one clear point. Don't stack 5 softeners before your actual opinion.
One hedge, one clear point. I really like that as a rule.
I see where you're coming from, but I think the data actually tells a different story. One soften, one clear disagreement. Done.
Versus, maybe I'm wrong and I totally understand your perspective and I'm sure you've thought about this more than me, but possibly if you look at it differently, the data might perhaps suggest...
You've agreed with them by the time you finish that sentence.
You've fully capitulated. Okay, can we talk about with all due respect for a second? Because I have strong feelings.
Please, yes.
This phrase, with all due respect, is technically a polite disagreement opener, and in very formal contexts, like a courtroom or a boardroom, it has its place. But in everyday conversation,
It almost always sounds sarcastic.
it sounds like I'm about to be incredibly rude and I want credit for warning you first.
Exactly. With all due respect in casual conversation is a red flag.
Native speakers know this. So for our learners, be careful with that one. The intention is polite, but the effect is often the opposite.
I think we might see this differently is much better for casual contexts. Softer, warmer, less loaded.
And it opens a door rather than closing one. We see this differently implies, let's talk about that. With all due respect implies, I'm right and you're wrong, but I'm being civilized about it.
The door versus the wall.
That's the whole episode right there, actually.
Okay, let's make this real. 2 quick scenes. One where the disagreement goes wrong, and then the same situation done right.
Scene 1, wrong version. I'll make a claim, you shut me down badly.
Okay,
I think grammar is the most important thing in learning a language.
no, that's wrong. Communication matters more than grammar.
See? Technically correct opinion, terrible delivery. That no up front is a door slam, and that's wrong is a direct attack on my intelligence.
Right. Even if I'm right, I've made you defensive now. You're not listening to my argument anymore. You're thinking about how to fight back.
Okay, scene 2. Same situation, right version. I think grammar is the most important thing in learning a language.
That's a fair point, and grammar definitely matters. I'm not sure I fully agree, though. I'd say communication comes first, even with imperfect grammar. What makes you put grammar at the top?
See? Completely different. She validated my point, she disagreed clearly, and then she threw the question back to me. Now it's a conversation, not a fight.
And notice I used, I'm not sure I fully agree, rather than I disagree. Same meaning, much softer landing.
Let's do one more. The workplace version. Someone in a meeting says something you think is a bad idea.
Okay, you're the colleague.
I think we should move the product launch to next month to give us more preparation time.
Can I push back on that a little? I take your point about preparation. That's completely valid. But I think moving the launch risks losing the momentum we've built. Is there a way we could keep the date and add resources instead?
And that is a masterclass. Can I push back on that a little? Asked permission. I take your point. Validated. Clear disagreement. Delivered. Alternative solution? Offered. That's a full diplomatic package in 4 sentences.
And crucially, nobody's losing face. Nobody looks stupid. The conversation moves forward.
That's what polite disagreement actually is. It's not about being soft. It's about being effective.
Okay, here's what we want you to take away today. Validate before you push back. Always acknowledge the other person first.
One hedge, one clear point. Don't soften yourself out of existence.
Tone matters as much as the words. Curious beats combative every single time.
And can I push back on that a little? Is your new secret weapon. Use it everywhere.
You don't have to choose between being polite and being heard. In English, you can be both. And today, you have the phrases to prove it.
And if all else fails, I think we might see this differently. We'll get you out of almost any situation gracefully.
Now, here's your challenge this week. Next time you disagree with someone in English, try one of these phrases instead of going silent or going blunt. Even once. See what happens.
And come back and tell us how it went. Drop it in the comments. We genuinely want to know.
If this episode helped you, share it with one person who struggles with this. One share makes a real difference to us.
Subscribe if you haven't. New episodes every week.
Talk to you next time.
See you then.